Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Barry Erickson, and I'm Community Engagement Coordinator here at Wheaton Public Library. Tonight, we are delighted to bring you another art demonstration provided in partnership with the DuPage Art League. Please be advised that the artistic content contains tasteful depictions of nudity. Since this program is being recorded, we just want to remind viewers that it is intended for adults and may not be suitable for children. Founded over 60 years ago, the DuPage Art League is dedicated to promoting and encouraging the visual arts through classes, workshops, gallery exhibits, and public programs such as this one. We are grateful to the DuPage Art League for arranging tonight's demonstration by acclaimed artist Dorothy Bury Shaw. Dorothy is a native of Chicago who attended the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts as an editorial illustration major. For several years, she worked as an illustrator and taught art, but later recognized her true calling was fine art. Dorothy's work has received many awards and recognition throughout the Chicago area. Please join us in welcoming Dorothy.
My name is Dorothy Bury Shaw, and I am a fine artist. I live in Downers Grove, and I'm happy to be here tonight. There's a lot to talk about, especially if you're an artist and you are looking for more adventure and more growth as an artist. I want to talk a little bit about my own path. And this is a sample of my artwork right here. Give you a little glimpse into what my work looks like now. But it didn't start that way. I went to the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts, and I was an editorial illustration major, and there was a lot of overlap with the curriculum. Fine arts included figure drawing, and so did illustration. And I loved the figure. I loved drawing the figure. Everything I needed to know, I could learn from the figure. I could learn shadowing. I could learn light. I could learn structure. I had influential teachers along the way. And there were influential artworks that really spoke to me, and it left an impact that would stay with me my whole life. Phil Renaud was one of my favorite instructors, and he was an illustrator. He did work for Playboy and other publications. And he was a laid-back guy who kind and caring and believed in helping other artists. We didn't have the kind of environment where people were, that's mine, you can't use it. You know, people shared, and that was a largely part to Phil's influence. Share your sources. If you found a good place that, you know, had a certain supply, or where you could find images. This was pre-internet, believe me, and we worked from tear sheets. People would share, and same with opportunities. There's a call for art, you know, at this publisher, at that publisher. He was very big on promoting that, a very wonderful man. He also said that if you're struggling with oil paint, that's okay. It's not for everyone. Find your own strength. It's gouache, it's watercolor, it's whatever it is. If it makes you happy to do it, that's what you should pursue. Fred Berger, an amazing figure drawing. He's got work at the Art Institute. I was so lucky to have his instruction for 4 years, and he would come up to me, put his hand on his shoulder. I'd be drawing a figure, you know, from the model. And he'd say, what do you think her eyes have seen? Or big questions that really gave me pause and realized I'm just not just drawing, you know, a thing. That there's an interaction happening here. At least for me, there has been. I know not all artists feel that way. Fred said to tell a story with your art. It could be any kind of story you want. Confuse them, repel them, comfort them, appeal to their intellect, draw them in with these things. He would say that just because something is ugly or unpleasant doesn't mean it's bad art. It's honest. It's being honest, and that's really important with artwork. Lou Aronson was one of my favorites, and another very kindly gentleman who was an active publisher. He did work like you see on these book covers, but much more than that. One of the most important things he said to me was a day that I was struggling in my work was, I don't know, I messed up. And I was like, oh, I just can't master this technique. And he came up to me and he said, do you want to be a technician or do you want to be an artist? And I thought, oh. And he goes, an artist just rolls with it. Technician will be stopped in your tracks again and again. It'll stop your development if you're so particular that you don't see the opportunity right before you. He was big on letting surprises happen and finding the beauty in the smudged lines, taking advantage of these things that happened as opportunities. He also was, this was in the late 70s, he said, I want to see people wearing glasses. I want to see older people. I want to see people of all sizes. And he said, I never want you to be blind to those who are struggling or invisible, things that are broken. Always include aspects of the things society deems undesirable. And that was a very important message that stuck with me. Phyllis Bramson was a character. She was a pistol. And she's at the Art Institute now. She's still around. She teaches art history and fine art. And we had her for art history, and we'd be sitting there staring at slides for hours, and she'd talk about them, and she'd get annoyed, if we looked drowsy or distracted or, and she'd say, did you go to the gallery? This one where the artists that now are established, like, what's his name? Ed Paschke. You could go on Michigan Avenue down the side streets there and see his work in galleries for free. Just, and she'd say, do it. It's free. Go to the openings, get to know people, make contacts. Then if she showed a slide and people were like, ooh, like that's garbage, or she'd say, historians have decided this is good art, find out why. And just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's not good art. So I thought, oh, she's right. I have to have an open mind about whatever I'm looking at, especially, when the curators have decided this is an important piece, So I opened my mind and I learned from her. One of the slides she showed was this one. This is an important work to me. And I saw it and I was kind of startled by it. It's called New Descending a Staircase by Marcel Duchamp. And it was this particular slide that had her start shrieking, people, wake up. She'd walk around, clap, wake up, pay attention here. You don't know the masterpiece you're looking at right here. And, people would groan and wake up. But this one, I could exactly see what she meant. What struck me, the powerful energy and movement in the piece. It's abstract, and yet it's full of life. It's full of movement. Was successful use of monochromatic tones. I never saw them the same way since. I saw the warm tones and the lights and the darks, all strategically used, and it had an intimate rhythmic energy. The person walking down the stairs, the figure, man or woman, we don't know. Um, it wasn't flaunting, and it was just walking down the stairs. It's like we were intruding on a private moment there, come in an ordinary movement, but it felt so personal and intimate to me. And she told us, fun fact, that that artist William de Kooning was so moved when he saw this particular painting that he abandoned his traditional art and he became a modernist. So that's a pretty powerful piece. I imagine there are pieces that you have seen that have struck you in unique ways. This Toulouse-Lautrec, one of my favorites, and oh, how I love this piece. And I went to the Chicago Academy, and one of our perks was we could go to the Art Institute and ask to see sketches that will never be on display. They're in the private collection. They bring them out, they're in a box, they're wearing white gloves, and you make an appointment and they show it to you and you could look at it, and they stand there off to the side and wait until you're finished. And I wish I took more advantage of that, but I looked at some of his drawings and I related to it. I saw ink smudges and smears and fingerprints and brilliance in these fluid lines, you know, one single stroke. We've seen Picasso in some of his one-line drawings. He was so eloquent and expressive with what he did. This one, we have a musician, kind of his head, kind of the arm, or this, not, oh gosh, not a stem. What's it? The neck. Oh gosh. Of maybe a cello and the dancer. And it's just the lines and the messy brilliance of it all. This is storytelling. This is movement, dynamic composition, and messy in a good way. This one, if I look too much at this, I will cry. This one, the first time I saw it, Picasso's Guernica. Most people have seen this, at least a picture of it. It's huge, it's massive. It would be taller than this ceiling, bigger than that wall. It's massive. And I saw it and I felt so much. I felt the anguish of these figures. I felt like I was there, the desperation, the futility. His response to the chaos and destruction caused when the Nazis bombed Guernica in northern Spain. Powerful piece, historic piece. You could read a lot of articles about that war and about these battles. Nothing strikes me the way this artwork does. And I wrote, it was a blade slicing through my naivete, and it's true. I was kind of you know, clueless in a way. My innocence and my insulated grasp of war, sanitized versions that we would read about in history books. All the horrors throughout history came to life, and I felt the anguish deeply then and now. And that's when I really recognized the power of art. Its editorial capabilities, its the commentary, the way it records history in a way that history books never can. Art is so important, and now more than ever. I get passionate, I get carried away. I did figure drawing, and sadly, a lot of my work you will see was ruined by moisture, but these pictures aren't great, but they're what I have to show you of my adventures in figure drawing. And because we're family friendly, you'll see little gray boxes where the naughty bits would be. And I want to be respectful to our audience. I'm very grateful everyone is here, both home and here in the room. And I look at the beauty of, his name was Ralph. I really liked him as a model. These were two separate sittings. Franny, and Mario. Mario was my absolute favorite model. And I put the clothes on them. They had some clothes on for these, but they were two different sittings, and I put them together to create one artwork. There's Ralph again. And there's my husband, who's here tonight. He's sitting in the back there with the white hair now. So at this point, I want to talk about another influential artist, Ed Paschke. I mentioned him earlier. Uh, he was he was being discovered. He was so exciting to me because he was doing such fun, interesting things with color. And I decided I'm always working with line. I love line. I'm going to try working with mass, and I'm going to explore color. And so I did. And these are some of my sketches from that period, which I really like them. Sorry. This was Franny too. That was in the earlier picture. This is Tim. You get to know the models when you work with them day in and day out. I found them very successful, but I liked line. So then I explored more with line, and this is an etching. And if you look at my work now, you can see it was really starting here. I always loved pattern, and I think it could have something to do with my Lithuanian heritage and those Easter eggs and all the patterns of the culture and the weavings. And, I never put two and two together then, but now I kind of think maybe that's where it came from. Maybe it's genetic. I don't know, but I love, love, love pattern. And I could have created this last week. It's that much still who I am. And I love the cat. Sad it's a goner because of the moisture, but I love the cat and the bird. I should recreate that. So even while I was still in school, I was doing illustrations, and these are just a few. This was a history. As you see, I'm dabbling in all different styles. History book, American history that has the different chapters of Native Americans and discovery and frontier, Ellis Island, suffragettes, soldiers, the race issues. This was one for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And this was old school back then. No computer, no, we had to do color separation and all that. And it was quite an experience. I ended up not staying with illustration. I did it for a few years after graduation. This is my endeavors, non-art, but always creative. I was an illustrator. While I was doing that, I was teaching art at a boys' club for 5 years. I got married. I had children. I did babysitting. I did sewing jobs, side hustles like whatever, anything to make money. Then I was teaching sewing at Marshall Field's, lingerie, heirloom sewing, and I worked retail. And then I became an in-home decorator. And because I'd had some interior design when I was in college, I ended up developing that, and I started my own business, and I had that for 24 years. And that's hand-drawn, no CAD programs. That was the old way. But that's a little sample of some of the stuff that I was doing. But then 35 years later, after school, a storm changed my life. And I had a design studio, but I also had art supplies down there. Not that they ever came out of the package or, they were in there. I always wanted to return to my art, and life was such that it was a luxury I could not allow for myself back then. But we had a bad, bad storm, and our, what's it called, sump pump clogged. And so water's coming in, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose everything. And I'm usually a very calm person, but this time I got very stressed and got a wet vac, and I'm sucking it all up into the wee hours, pouring it down the shower, which I don't know if that was dumb or smart, I don't know, but it just, finally the storm stopped, the water eased, and it was the middle of the night, and I was so stressed and tired, and I grabbed my pens and I took them out of the package, and I grabbed a sketchbook. I used to sketch all the time for clients. And I started drawing and drawing and drawing. And I probably sat there, and these shapes and these patterns started coming. And it just changed. I felt, like, wow, this is great. This is wonderful. And I went to bed, but first thing in the morning, I swear, that sketchbook started nagging me. Come back, get over here. We've more work to do, more work. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. And any moment I had, I started, drawing again. And it was it was so exciting, and it started to take shape. Um, so I was using only brown sepia ink, and these figures started coming, and they're very stylized, and um, I just I couldn't get enough. This was called Grounded Inner Song, and it's almost like a truth, like singing her truth. This one, Canticle of Thanksgiving, his chest is laced because it's bursting with joy, um, with gratitude, humbly on his knees. I'm not sure why I did a man and not a woman, but I did. And with the light burst behind him. Um, this is an original I will never part with. I love this one. I started adding more color, and I do have a horse. When I was 55, I got a horse instead of a sport car. It was a midlife crisis, but it was always a dream. And, so I did this one, and this one is very symbolic. He's got the blades coming out of his chest. How powerful and strong and courageous this horse was. An auction horse. Mine was not, but in my art, it was an auction horse. The Mermaid's Secret, again, more color. Mermaid, because they dig deep, they swim deep, they explore the depths, they're not afraid of the depths. It's a natural habitat for them. And she's very annoyed because the waves are crashing and interrupting her sunning time. And somehow I just felt the need to do the mermaid. Another horse. They're getting more and more detailed, bigger, more color. And this is a stronger use of color. Hallelujah Quartet. Another important piece I still have. I'm going through because we have a lot to talk about. Lotus in the Sun, the most color yet. And the story of the lotus, they grow basically from pond scum, and they come up and they only open in the light, in the sun. And I thought it's so true for all of us, when we can see the light, when we can feel the light, be the light, we open, and that's when we receive, but we need that pond scum. Um, Sure. The question is, I talk about adding more color to the artwork and what am I using to create the color? So at this point in time, I was doing a watercolor underpainting, and I still do an underpainting, but not always in watercolor. And then I would do colored pencil on top of that, shading to get some gradients. And I'll get a lot more into this technique a little bit later. But that's a great question because the desire to use color got me exploring, adding to my mixed media. And I was very happy with the results. So right now it's ink, colored pencil, and watercolor at this stage. And it's continued that way. This piece is the same. This is called Tender Mercies. And I do the symbolism. I have a moon and a sun in this picture and an arc in the sky that shows the passage from day to night and night to day. And cranes, they mate for life, and this one is returning to the mate. The couple, they're not touching, but it's about forgiveness and it's about willingness to rest and be and let that happen. So this is for me, it was one of the biggest pieces so far. I think it was 32 inches wide, which with all this fine drawing is big. I know in a regular painting, it might not be. Everyday Priestess, I love this one. She's got 4 arms. I had to conceal her breast a little bit, but everything is symbolic. The breast symbolizes the way she nurtures others, nurtures the world. And she's holding the dove to her ear to get guidance and wisdom. She's got a working shepherd's crook so that she could rescue and lead and climb difficult terrains, difficult obstacles, and do so successfully. She's holding the vessel. The vessel is empty because she's always pouring forth whatever fills her vessel. And then she's got a book on a sacred text. I did not put a title on it in order to leave it open for the viewer so that it would be more personal for whoever sees this. There are banners crossing her body, and those represent different cultures. The ferns represent vibrant life, whereas behind them there are brown ferns, and then that blue watery in front of her at the bottom, the ripple effect of what she gives and what she does. I did sell this piece, but it was hard to part with it. Singing You Awake. I used this one for the cover of my book. I really liked it, about a journey and realization and awakening to the fullness of who you are, who we are. And the bristlecone pine is that twisted, they're the oldest trees in existence, and they have barely a root system. They're in California, up in well, I don't know what's left of them now, but I wanted to show that age and that history, that those winds bent that tree and twisted it. And as life bends us and twists us and sends us in a different direction, and yet how beautiful it is. And the last line of the poem, I write poems for all these too. Something like, Beloved, why would I sing you to sleep when nightmares are waiting? And some nightmares are given, like being chased and lost and so forth. I'm singing you awake. So, um, so I'd created quite a body of work. I was doing art fairs for 10 years. I got quite a few awards, and I was with the DuPage Art League. I was at the best of the best in one of those. And that was a wonderful experience and a great show. But this was an awesome time because I was meeting the people and connecting with the people. And when we put our art in a gallery or in an exhibition, we don't really know what's going on in people's head when they see it, what they're taking from it. At art fairs, um, it's not like that. People come and talk to me and, ask me about it, share their own stories. I heard so many stories, sometimes we hugged, sometimes we cried. Um, I don't know what to say except it was wonderful. And I did that for 10 years, mostly in the Chicago area. Then collage. All this time I was doing that other method that the one with the question had asked. I had a collaboration project with people from the Midwest Collage Society. It was separate, it was sewing, it was a book, and we each created a page of a story. And they had an opportunity to show it, but because I was not a member of the Collage Society, that was stopping that everyone from, because it was one work that, and so a couple people chipped in and they bought me a membership to the Collage Society. And I thought, well, the least I could do is make a collage. And that was a life changer for me because I loved it. And this was the first collage. Her arm, her hands, her head, her feet, you can't see them, all the twists in the tree, the bird, the stick, all of those are cut out separately and pasted on. And I thought, it's fun. This is fun. It's play. I can arrange these. I can rearrange these. Like, why didn't I do this before? And I realized I could use elements of the collage to contribute to the story, maps, music, text, words, or they could just be a texture. This is a piece called The Kiss, and it has some use of collage, which you can see in the bird, in the flower. I'm still doing my thing with the drawing and the colored pencil and the watercolor underpainting, but now I'm adding. And I started using the mandala for symbolism. And in Asian cultures, it represents many aspects of the universe. And some people who are familiar use it as like a tool for meditation. In this case, it's radiating and repeating the glowing, growing pattern of love. And the love that the couple manifests extends forever out through time and space. And I believe that. I do believe anything we do that's kind and gentle and loving and generous, the ripple effect goes on. And I think I think it's that powerful. Around this time, I started using symbolic use of text and music, with the words. They're You'll see the whole thing in a little bit. But their feet are above the clouds here. And those are echoes of the mandalas too. Music, I use a lot. It's a universal language. it has patterns as well. It has repeating choruses or refrains. It has an order to it. And then flowers, of course, represent life and growth. I guess I don't have or maybe it was at the beginning I showed the full thing. Well, we'll move on. This one's called Mother to Mother. And it's another good sized piece like the Kiss, more collage this time. Maps used in the wing of the bird, in the décolletage neckline there of her garment. Throughout the drawing, different languages. I mean, I can just drive myself crazy, except I love it at the same time. Cutting out these little, smaller than my pinky thumbnail. But some of them are quite small, the pieces, and but I am compelled to do it, and I love after it's done. I'm using math now, and I love to use math. It's a nod to truth and universal purpose. I love the precision of it. Math cannot lie. You can take many pathways. You could reach one answer through different means, but the ultimate answer holds true. I've had people argue with me about this at art shows, and that math can lie. And I believe that math can be manipulated and tell a lie through manipulation, but that's not math's fault. So I don't know. I find it quite fascinating. And I would have people come to my show and they see the calculus and they'd start translating it. The arc of the curve extends into eternity. And I would start swooning and like, more. I just can't get enough of it. I even read the text of calculus and like, oh, it's like poetry. I don't know why. It's just how I am. This is a big one called And So It Begins, about life emerging from the earth and growing those the Mandela idea again, repeating. The Mandela becomes the entire sky in this piece. Maps, these are like egg-shaped and they're part of the earth below the surface and the life force that's pushing upward. I like maps because they remind us that we're here in this place and time, this point for a reason. We're here. There's purpose to it. In this particular artwork, the maps have become roots, and I like maps. I like everything about them. Sometimes I choose maps specifically for part of the story, a location, but usually not. Usually it's about just map. I told you about calculus already, but chemistry, it's the precision. It's the compounds that these exact components create one result and nothing else but this one cluster. I don't know, it blows my mind. I was not strong in chemistry, but I have a love and respect for it. I wrote, it all provides a sense of cosmic security. I don't even know sometimes what I'm thinking, but this is the one that was at the DuPage Art League in the best of the best, and it won a prize that night. It's called A Few Dead Branches, and still with the watercolor, still with the colored pencil and the collage. And words have meaning in this piece. There's the postal cancellation thing. I love those because they represent a point in space and time. I love the roots. I love all the turbulence under the earth and the rightness to it, how it's, when we think about the earth and what's going on down there, it's quite amazing. I have the words, I see you, I think in the bottom there. And I can't read them on my little thing, but something about wonder, or I can't remember what, but significant to the story. Oh, I already talked about the postage dates. Finally, we're going to get to the studio, and I'm going to show you works that are in progress. And I'll talk more about the materials, and I'll talk more about the techniques. A lot of my work is so detailed. I use one of these magnifying light lamps, and I mean, I have to because some of it gets so tiny. But that's my workspace at home, and I have another one now at Water Street Studios where I work. I love this light box, light pad it's called. It's super skinny. I brought it. I can show it to you later. But it has different light settings. So I could put a pretty thick paper, or I could put a sheet of text, and it's printed on both sides. It'll see right through it. So I can take my sketch and I could transfer it to the text, or I can, anyway, it's a fantastic little thing. I got this at Jerry's Artorama, and I think it was like $29. Super skinny. I love it. I use it all the time. These are other supplies I like to use. I'll get more into detail about some of them, but I want to call your attention to the soft gel semi-gloss because that's my coating that goes on top of all my work. And that is like the glue that fuses because I iron pieces together at the end. I use a parchment paper to protect, and I fuse things, and that's the medium that I use. Prismacolor pencils I like. I love this one glue stick because it's permanent and it's archival, and it's the best. UV spray I protect from fading. I like to work on illustration board for wet media. This is the parchment paper I just mentioned, kitchen parchment, not art parchment. That's very important distinction because it's got a release in it, and your work won't stick to the iron when you're pressing it. Illustration board doesn't warp if it's for wet media, and that's what I use. Sharpening stone. I don't know why that special effect is in there, but it just happened that way. I like this kind of pencil sharpener. I can unscrew it and I can sharpen it on the stone. My razor blades, I can sharpen them on the stone. It's great. I ended up losing some work to fading, early work. And so I started getting away from watercolor. I mean, I would look at the watercolor fade charts and choose only the most color fast. But then I found Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India ink is totally color fast, and you could use it like watercolor. And if you dilute it, it does not break down like watercolor does, and it will not fade, and it's water-based. So I'm getting in this direction now for bigger areas that I have to cover. Colored pencils. I like Prismacolor because it's creamy and I can blend with it, but I also use Derwent and is it Faber-Castell? basically for color, I buy a pencil for quality first and then color. Um, yeah, I discovered these and I'm using these a lot more now. Blick alcohol markers. And they have a brush tip, which you can get super fine with. And I don't use that chisel tip at all. I have no interest in that end of it. They are color fast and refillable. These are expensive. So the refillable aspect, not every color is refillable, but the main ones are. And with your tweezer, you pull out the tip and it's the almost like a little syringe top, that fits right in there and you squeeze in and you could put some ink back in and saves a lot of money that way because I can go through this. But that's an exciting find and they're only about a year old now. So I brought some you could look at if you want. This is the gel I was talking about. And I mix a little water in there. That little crinkled up thing is holy water. It was my secret ingredient until I accidentally spilled the bean at a demo, and now I have to talk about it. It's just my own little thing, a few drops in every piece I create. Um, I just like the intention of a blessing or a gift or whatever, whatever you want to consider it to be. For me, it's like an extended blessing to whoever views and, eventually owns the work. I always protect it anyway with a UV varnish. You have to be super careful though, because it will dull if you put too much, the sharpness gets dulled. So don't make a mistake that I have learned from making. Tweezers, these are reverse tweezers. And so you squeeze it to open it. And then once it's holding the edge of something, you barely have to hold it and you could really position it. They're so nice. Because I usually have some glue on the bottom, a glue stick or whatever. And I am in love with reverse tweezers. These are irons for small areas. You could use a household iron if you're interested in fusing like I do. Always with the parchment paper on top of the art, never the iron directly on the art, or you'll ruin your iron and your art. The Dritz one is really nice. It's, the top of it's maybe that big. Well, you can't really see me, but if you want a fancy one, the Glover is really nice because it's got different heads. It even has a knife head. So if you need to heat up a knife for cutting, a round one for rolling, I don't know. I'm sure it has uses that I've never even imagined, but I have both and I love these things. They've enabled me to get even tighter with my work. Here's my art process. Now that you've been introduced to the materials, I'm almost embarrassed to show the next couple ones because they're so basic, but people say they like these. So step one, make the outline. You might have a pencil a line underneath that, or you might just draw it freehand. Use the micron marker for this. It's permanent and archival. Then the watercolor underpainting, or now if you want to use Bombay, if you want to use, if the paper's thin and it's a text, or music, you might want to use the alcohol marker instead. Sometimes the alcohol marker dissolves the ink a little bit, but I don't mind that look. Then the colored pencil to add some richness to the color, to create that gradient effect, and then more ink, bring in more ink. you learn from experience that if you use too much colored pencil, it creates a waxy resist, and you don't want that. So you have to experiment a little bit to know which pencils are good. I mean, you could, if it's light enough, use any pencil, but certain colors, and they tend to be the light ones, are easier to put ink on. Um, but we learn lessons the hard way. That's how I learned. And eventually, add more line. This is how I do it. And it applies to just about anything I do. It's just a process, step by step. And now that I do collage elements, I just create pieces for the fun of it, and then I'll insert them whenever. Sometimes I'll create pieces for an artwork and then not use them. And so I have a little collection, and, some days I sit down and just see what I have and I create with it. Not the most flattering picture of me, but I like it. Creating the art step by step. Start with this one. This is the one I brought today. It's over on the side for those in person if you wanted to look at it, get up close. I started with a sketch. I get to fine tune it in the pencil stage. And then right on top of the pencil, I go with some outline, and I use a thicker pen for that. They come in different thin to quite thick, and even a brush tip. I go somewhere in the middle for this step for the outlines, and then I start adding some finer lines, and I erase the pencil if the paper is heavy enough, and it works. On the side there, I've done some little test areas with my materials to try to work in the skin tone I want to use. And here you can see how I've started to layer it and color it and get the shading in there, more line work. It's just going over and over and over, with the same materials. In this picture, you can see the other scraps like a border and a tree, these are all going to contribute to the final piece. And I'm creating them. I have kind of a look in mind, but the composition isn't finalized yet at this point. This I used the alcohol markers on because the paper was thin and delicate. And I can blend them. They blend well. One right after the other. And then with colored pencil, I go in and shade on top of that. And then I add more line work with the heart, the wings, some of these stripes. These are all separately done and separately cut out, and then arranged this way to create her cape. People will say to me, how does she do it? I don't see the edges that it's cut out. Well, I color the edges with a marker, because I am particular that way. I don't want to see the cut edge of the paper, but if you look close, you can always see it. I chose a map for this upper area, and I colored that with pencil, but didn't do too much line work on the map itself. I chose a mountain range because I wanted to, she's at her, expressing her highest self in this artwork, and I wanted to show the altitude of her mind through the mountainous region that I put in the sky. And then those interweaving, kind of wandering, meandering thoughts. And that's what the piece looks like. And it's one of my biggest pieces. It's over there. I put silver right here on between her eyebrows, like a dot, but it didn't really, once I put the coatings on, it's hard to tell it's silver. And so I learned that lesson too, that metallic paints, once you put the protective coatings, don't always maintain their integrity. their metallic effect. This one's called A Land Unto Herself, and you can see watercolor underpainting here. And I'm not like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It creates like a grit or something to the surface that colored pencil loves, and it gives the saturation of color that really makes it pop. So underpainting. And here I worked collage for the treetops, and it's all different texts. And they don't look like leaves at all, but you know, when trees are bunched together and they're all one big mass of leaves, that's what I was thinking of. I have different languages in there, and again, with the universal theme. Oh, what did I do? Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Okay. Um, a closer look at developing um, the light behind her. I like to think of it as a moon. Some people call it a halo. Um, just building and building. You can see the contrast after more drawing and more painting and more trees are added. Um, it just gets more and more lush. And there she is. In the bottom where at the water line on the far left, you see an eel swimming, and he's got fangs, and he's kind of like, "Ah, nah, 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 here I come." But if you look at the far side, he's leaving as well. So that suggests that some challenges or turbulent times or annoying happenstances may come, but they also go. They're not forever. It's one of my favorite pieces. My husband calls it my magnum opus, but its real title is A Journey Without Distance. And watercolor underpainting, line work. Here, this is all the colored pencil, rendering the shading and getting those nice rich tones. Adding more ink, more line, creating contrast, and that you can see the collage elements being added, and the Mandela effect inside that moon or sun. To me, I leave it ambiguous. I added the trees. I created more trees than I needed, but I had to play with them. That's what I love about collage is you get to experiment and play. And nothing is set in stone. These are all cut out, and you know how it ends up, you don't know till it till it happens. And the magic, it's just like magic, how suddenly it feels right. I use maps in this one and drawn on top of the maps and use colored pencil to color it. It's subtle, but it's definitely there. And there's that. This one is a Midnight Messenger, the Raven. People really like this one. And I started this with the raven itself, the focal point. And you could see the ink work. There's some alcohol marker in that gray zone there. But then colored pencil and watercolor as well. In this one, the map, uh, it was inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven, which I love. And I wanted to twist the ending because he was such a tormented soul. And I thought, what if the raven, you know how corvids, the crows, ravens, they like sparkling objects. And what if it was bearing a gift? They leave people who feed them gifts. And, you know, what if it was a gift and not this ominous message that Edgar Allan Poe imagined. So that was kind of my idea behind this. And those clouds maps are from places that he lived during his lifetime. Baltimore, New York, that area. I didn't get any from England when he lived there. But it was enough and I was happy with it. And then the moon, developing the moon. all the pieces start taking shape and I develop a composition. And then because the raven steps in through the, the window, boldly steps in the poem, I had to create a window. So I used borders from maps for that. And there it is, the finished piece. And it is holding a star. It is bearing light. And it's not the ominous raven of the original poem. This is currently on my art table, and I have the pieces of it over there. Started with a sketch. I started with the head, and then I was thinking of a bird, but then I wanted to do a cat, and I had this slinky cat in my head, that would, uh, she would be petting, it's silky and smooth, and come to find out, the cat said, I want to be fluffy. And I listened to the artwork. It is like it speaks to you, and you probably have all experienced this. But I created this fluffy cat and lots of drawing and pieces glued on to fluff it out more. I use maps for it seems wrong to call it a snout. Muzzle, no. Well, those cheeky chin areas and the chest are maps. And this background I have up there and the work on her face. I still have a long way to go, but it's very satisfying to me to just work on it and watch it unfold. And I do develop one area at a time, but then it feels as though the areas start speaking to each other and kind of guide me in how to, complete it. How are we on time? We're good. I want to leave time for questions. I wrote this poem, kind of my approach on beginning new art. I'll read it. On the altar of this empty page, take me, spend me, roll me in the mud and hose me down, throw me in the pot, make a beautiful stew of my random odd bits of this and that. Enough to feed the world, please. When there's nothing left of me worth saving, toss me in the compost bin to become new life again so you can take me, spend me, roll me in the mud, ... And it's kind of how I approach my work. When I set up to draw, I might do a meditation. I might read from, poetry or something that's meaningful to me. I might listen to music. I just set up this atmosphere where everything in the world is behind me. It's outside the door. If you do yoga, it's part of the yoga practice. You leave all your cares and whatever concerns of the day and just, sink into this present moment and what's going to come, offering it up, let it serve some good, let it maybe touch someone or, heal me, heal some of my wounds and broken pieces and, maybe that we all can share in that. And so it's the intention that I bring to my art, and I always have from that very first stormy night, like save me, help me. I can't, I don't know what to do. And art is always there. Art is always there to help with that. That art piece is called Truth Landed Lightly, and I like it. This is Amanda Gorman. You might be familiar with her, but she has this beautiful quote about creating art. I think if I could go back in time and give myself a message, it would be to reiterate that my value as an artist doesn't come from how much I create. I think that mindset is yoked to capitalism. Being an artist is about how and why you touch people's lives, even if it's one person, even if that's yourself in the process of art making. And I thought that was just beautiful. I resonate with poets because they find a way to speak truths in a different way. In the end, turning points in life and in our art and in our process, and whenever we move from one style to another, whatever we decide we want to explore, turning points are gifts. And our teachers are everywhere. They're not just in the classroom. They're people we meet and people in our family, the children. Oh my gosh, the children are teachers. And just to be teachable, to allow that to touch you, to enlighten you, to look at it with as an observation, not with judgment, just awareness. To know that our art matters. It matters not only to us, but to the art community. And I can't say how much seeing other art feeds me. And it's just a incredible thing. Art heals for the maker and the viewer both. I know that personally. Art gives voice to things unspoken. Art enables us to find ourselves and lose ourselves at the same time. And the art we create is the heartbeat of humanity. I didn't talk about it earlier, but I think when we look at a piece of art, it deserves a moment of reverence and respect, to really absorb it and to appreciate it. Creating art has helped me view art and be touched by art. And I love the art community. I just love being part of it. I'm very thankful for everybody, all of you. And I don't know, it's encouraging to see how many people signed up and how many came on this cold night. It's like a hug. I did a book, um, Love Without Distance, and I showed you the artwork earlier. And that's the one about singing you awake. There's poetry and art in it. I did this in 2018. And it's for sale on my website. I also have a copy of it here if you wanted to look at it. But that's available. I also sell prints and note cards. Prints are done through Osseo Brown in Elmhurst, and he does a wonderful job. He's got a photographically correct room, I guess I'll call it, cubby with a very expensive camera that he photographs your art, and then he has the technology to do a precise color match so that when it prints, it's spot on. And I'm so happy because the prints are a way to make my work available to other people, and the note cards too. Someone brought a note card tonight, and I was so excited by that she's had for years and moves it around to different places in her house. It's things like that that just keep you creating and kind of lift your spirits when you kind of feel you're lost, or what am I doing? What am I doing next? That kind of thinking. It's remembering those things. If you ever want to come see me at Water Street Studios, I have a studio there, and there are open studios every second Friday of the month at night, 6:30 to 9, and I would welcome you to come and visit. I have some of my work in progress there. I have originals there. I have some prints there. And it's just a fun vibe there. I don't know if anybody's ever been, but I'm really happy there. And yeah, so that's my website. I have for those who are here, I have postcards and business cards on the table over there. I'd like to pause now and maybe show my work in progress and talk about a couple little things if we still have time.
Yes, absolutely. And as we transition, I'll just remind those folks at home, if you would type any questions that you might have into the Q&A, we'll be reading those out loud. And if you have a question in our in-person audience, if you'd raise your hand, I'd be happy to bring the mic to you. We've switched the camera over to the post, that area that we've designated where Dorothy will be standing and showing the pieces that she brought. And we'll stop the screen share here in just a moment. Yeah,
Is this good right here?
Yeah, that's a great spot. And again, let's just wait one moment while we stop the screen share so that folks will be able to see what it is that you're holding up.
Questions. Yeah,
just a moment. I'll bring the mic to you.
She was going to bring the microphone. One question that people ask me is, how long does it take? And I would say a lifetime because life has informed me. And yeah. So anyway, we have a question.
So the picture that was shown when you first started your presentation, was that a picture of you? Because it looked like you.
It was.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you.
I thought so. I just wanted to ask.
That was called Longing to Fly, and it was the only self-portrait that I've done. And I also have a cockatoo, and the cockatoo is in that. My cockatoo is a feather mutilator, and she's half bald most of the time, but she's beautiful and she's spunky and she's fun, and we have a great time, and both of us want to fly. So yeah, I created that piece for that.
Right. So Dorothy, if you want to go ahead and stand approximately there, we'll try and keep you in frame, and you can hold the pieces that you brought and show those to us. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to reach and step right back. This is the thing I was telling you about that I'm obsessed with. It's just like, it weighs nothing. It's that light box, light pad, they call it. And you could use a USB or plug it, you know, with one of those adapters. I have mine plugged in, but you get, you know, brighter, brightest. And I had another light box. It doesn't begin to compare. This is the book I was telling you about. And this is my sample copy. It's been around, but it's art and poems. So best way to get it is on my website. Amazon has it too, but I prefer my website if you can. And if that way I could sign it for you too, if you'd like that. Or you could read the poems for free on my website too. These are the alcohol markers. They're just great. And, you know, that little tip is perfect. And I can, you know, do the fine work that I do now with them. For example, you saw the picture of it in progress. This is the background for the cat and the woman. Cat's gonna go somewhere around here. You know, there's still a lot of work here to do, but I use the alcohol marker for some of these fine areas. And then, you know, colored pencil shading here to give it that kind of old and dimensional look. And ink and more colored pencil. I still have more to do on this, but this is it's a pretty old map, and in a way, I felt sorry that I cut it up, but then I was so happy because it's so beautiful. And whoever owned the map did like outlines of the route. And I love that. I left it. There's a yellow one here and a red one there. There's a couple places where, it's like part of its history. So, this is to give you the scale of the piece. This is, the figure. And these fine detailed pieces here that make her garment, I use the alcohol markers on that and colored pencil. There so far is no watercolor on this piece or Bombay ink, but lots of cutting and piecework. And this is all freehand. People ask me, in fact, somebody here today did you draw it first? And I did do a drawing, but I didn't stick with it. This is freehand. I just let it, oh my goodness. I'm just, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone and it tells me what it wants and I follow it. And I learned with the micron pens, it's not just about the thickness of the tip, but it's about how much pressure you put on there. And as I grow confident, I can put a little more weight on it. People ask me, oh, how do you get these long lines, so straight and so perfect? I don't draw a long line. I do short little, and I start lightly, then I put it down heavier and keep going and gradually lift it. Then when I continue the line, I start up where it's thick and bring it down and then gradually lift it. It looks seamless, but it's really done in sections. Yeah. Yeah, she said it's a good trick. Oops. I'm trying to stay in the frame. These have the coating on them. It looks glossy. I don't know if you could tell. These are going to be part of a blanket that's with the cat and the woman and kind of across the bottom area. And they have the coating of that, yeah, the, what's it called? Soft gel semi-gloss. And so when I use the iron, these pieces, I'll use my super glue stick that I mentioned, mono brand, and I'll tack it down, but the real gluing happens. And of course, I've colored all the edges with the marker so you don't see the edges. Using the iron to flatten it on a medium temperature, parchment paper on top. And I can use the same parchment quite a few times, but if you start lifting and you see little bumps, like it's like peeling off like a little harder, it's time for a new parchment paper. Do we have any questions?
We do have several questions about materials, but let me start with this one here.
So is it, does the adhesion take place because you've put that semi-gloss
Yes.
on and then you put the iron on top of it with the parchment paper?
Yes.
Okay.
They fuse. There's no way to get it apart. It flattens it. And I have a board that I covered with fleece, from Joanne Fabrics or something like that, wrap it with a fleece that they make blankets out of. So there's some padding there, and then press down, hold it, and just keep moving it around. And then when it's done, you could hold it and look. If you see any bubbles or any, you can go back and fix that. It's not a problem. But when you look, I can't carry it over here, but that's the original, and you can see how flat and nice and sealed that is. It was Laureline Svensner that taught me that method in one of her workshops. And she uses the gloss, and she learned it from someone else. And it's kind of in the collage, in that community, one of the ways that people glue their work. And
So the gloss is on both sides?
on both sides, yeah, you have to have every surface coated for this to work. So sometimes I'll do one area at a time. Some of the layering gets complicated. We have
Yeah,
another,
thank you. There was a question about adhesives and hopefully that covered it. If there's a more specific question, please re-enter that. There was another question about the type of paper that you use.
yes, I use the illustration board. It's a cotton rag. It's not cheap, but it's for wet media. And you could use hot press or cold press. It comes both ways. If you like more texture, if you like it smooth, you can choose. But that does not warp. This is a crescent one. The picture in the, it was a Strathmore. This is a crescent one. You could maybe see the word crescent all over the back. But this is really rigid. And you could get illustration board even thicker than this. But then I can not, when I put the coatings on, I do not have to put it behind glass. It's just, a canvas is made of cotton, so why not? It's probably more durable than that canvas is.
And the paper that you use for the collage that is added.
Yes, this I ripped out of a sketch pad, as you can see. Any paper will do. Any paper will be fine. It is sealed in with both sides of that polymer so that it's protected. I mean, I have newspaper, music, all get the same coating and are protected that way. It can be thin, it can be thick, doesn't matter.
You keep talking about cutting these things out. With what do you cut them?
Scissors. I use scissors. I use scissors, but I have found that if I hold the scissors straight and turn the paper, that it's easier than going, and I showed you my razor blades. Sometimes I'll use that. I have X-Acto knives, but I tend to cut myself with those. I don't know why. But yeah, that's what I use, scissors. Nice sharp ones.
Dorothy, where do you get your maps?
I go to estate sales, thrift stores. I get them from all over. And then once people know that I like maps and they bring me maps. So, I have quite a few maps and I love them. I love looking at them. I choose them for different reasons. So good question.
We have so many questions about supplies, and you already talked about the types of colored pencils you use, but someone is also asking for a recommendation for a colored pencil sharpener.
Oh, I use the little sharpener. It doesn't have, it was in my picture over there with two blades. You can either do a long skinny point or you could do a short squat point. I use the squat point. And it's a quality one. It's a German one. And you could remove the blades, sharpen them and screw them back on. They have them at Blix. They have them online. They're not hard to find. They're usually like a pewtery color or a goldish color, brassy color. The reason I like the squat tip on my colored pencil is that the points don't break as easier. They're a little bit thicker, the lead part, and keep a nice point. you know, that's pretty important on colored pencil. You wanna, and another thing I do is sometimes I have a sand block or like an emery board, a fine one. And if I don't want to stop and sharpen right now, I'm gonna just file it a little bit, get a little point there, you know, that works too. But you do get the dust, you know.
Okay, you mentioned estate sales for getting the maps. Is that also where you find the other pieces like the music and the textbooks and some of
Thrift
the other things to use in collage?
Yeah, estate sales. Um, those are probably the two primary. I have a bunch of things from my dad's estate. He had a healthy pile of books and papers and all those canceled stamp circles are from correspondence that he has saved, and I saved the envelopes for those, you know, like and then people will give me things, you know. Um, it's just kind of fun. It's part of the thrill, you know. Like I like foreign languages, I like calculus, you know, finding those books in the thrift store or you know, it works out.
Right. And you also mentioned the print shop in Elmhurst. Could you tell us the name of that again?
It's Osio, OSIO hyphen Brown, BROWN. And the owner's name is Adam. And he has a wife who's an artist and she shows her work there too. But he is the one who does the photography. And if you don't want prints and you just want good photography of your work, he'll do that too. He does you can get reproductions on paper and he has, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 different papers to choose from. He has canvas. He will stretch it for you if you want. Sometimes I have mine put on gator board, which is rigid. That's available. Very nice man to work with and his work is impeccable.
All right.
Elmhurst on Spring Street. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Just one more opportunity. If we have any other questions in our in-person audience, or here's one.
How many hours a day do you spend in the studio? Do you have like regular work hours or do you just kind of come and go as you get ideas or thoughts?
There's no routine whatsoever. I will, now that I have Water Street, I find I'm more productive there than I am at home. You know, no dog whining, no interruptions of my dear husband or, you know, but I can only work in, you know, maybe 2 hours tops at a stretch because my eyes can't take it. My hand turns into a claw, you know, from all, it's repetitive. It's, you know, and I like to work standing. It's better for my back, better for my neck. But I will also sit, you know, and tip the thing up. So that it's like working at an easel a little bit. You can't with watercolor, of course, but that's another beauty of the alcohol markers. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, again, we are just in awe of the detail and the complexity of the work. And people keep asking, do you have any kind of estimate as to how long one of these, like your average piece, would take?
Yeah,
Wise?
if it's a big piece like this one, which is about 28 by 32, I'll say, probably 160, 180 hours. But it's hard to tell because, like I say, I'll draw more pieces than I need and I'll play and some I will cast off. So I've spent that time but not used it. But then it'll go into another piece hopefully someday. But it's a long time.
Right. Well, we certainly don't want any of your work to go to waste.
Well, in this one, I have done hair for her 3 different ways. I mean, elaborate hair. And I'm like, no, she doesn't like that one. And so I ended up just drawing this. I really like it. I'm gonna make it darker. So I have created hair for you know, I'll turn it into a tree or something, you know, or I'll maybe find a head that it, or cut it up. You know, that's the beauty of collage, is you can make it whatever you want. But she's gonna have short hair and it's gonna be dark and it's gonna be, you know, complement the cat. They're gonna be similar in color. I hope that that matters, but that's what feels right. And if I don't like it, I'll just make another hair and put it on top. And there go the hours and the hours and the hours. I mean, it's impossible really to tell. Sometimes I'll sit in TV and just create little pieces, you know, and you know, something to do. I like to mend, or, you know, I do a lot of mending. I don't know, we must be hard on things because we're always breaking clothes and ripping and you know, there's always mending to do. So that or this little drawing is fun.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing how the hair turns out in the end.
Thank you. I look forward to creating it.
Right. Well, thank you so very much, Dorothy, for your time in this incredible art demonstration. Just a reminder that I will be sending out several links for you to contact Dorothy Bury Shaw and see more of her work in a follow-up email tonight. But with that, we'll say good night. Take care, everyone, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.